second sermon in our series of questions that Jesus asked. The text that Barbara told so well is an Easter text. It's the traditional reading for Easter. You might not be expecting an Easter text in the middle of August. You expect an Easter text in the springtime. So, it's unexpected somewhat to hear that. Usually the texts around now are on discipleship. Things on Easter, the first Easter, didn't go as Mary expected. She expected the tomb to be sealed. When she got there, the tomb was open. There was not a body in there. That was unexpected. The conclusion she drew when the body was not there was an expected conclusion. Somebody took the body. Somebody stole the body. The idea of a resurrection was unexpected. I mean, if I went to my parents' graves in Brookville, Ohio, and I saw the tomb empty, that would be unexpected. I would draw the conclusion that somebody had stolen my parents' body. I would never go, "Oh, Susan, they rose from the dead." I just wouldn't think that. That would be an unexpected experience. So that's kind of the background for the questions that we're going to be dealing with today. Things are not going as expected for Mary. The two questions that Jesus asks are, "Woman, why are you weeping?" and "For whom are you looking?" I always like it that Jesus uses such good grammar. For whom are you looking? Yeah. On one level, those questions seem kind of like, duh. I mean, why are you weeping? Well, Jesus is dead and now his body's missing. That's why I'm weeping. For whom are you looking? Well, Jesus. It's kind of almost insensitive that he asks these questions. On the other level, as Colleen pointed out last week, questions have a way of engaging us. They have a way of getting us involved, of getting us interested in something. Elie Wiesel wrote of his childhood that when he came home from school, his mother would always ask him, "What questions did you ask today?" She never asked him, "What did you learn?" or "What did you answer?" but "What questions did you ask?" Because his questions would show how engaged he was with the discipline and how much he wanted to learn about it. To know the answers doesn't necessarily mean we're engaged. It could mean we're just a know-it-all. And to know the answers doesn't mean we want to know more. When I think of religion, you can look at religion as a bunch of questions, or you can look at religion as a bunch of answers. And frankly, I'm more comfortable with religion as questions. To have all the answers tends to turn us off, and it doesn't engage us with other people. It's sometimes used as a club. So the questions that Jesus asks are a way of engaging. "Woman, why are you weeping? And for whom are you looking?" Why are you weeping? Well, we tend to weep when we lose someone. Last Friday, as Susan has fallen into the habit of doing, she takes Friday off and goes and babysits for our 1.5-year-old granddaughter in Johnstown. And I've kind of fallen into the habit of going out for around 4 o'clock and spending the last hour with them. And so this past Friday, Susan had been there from, 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock playing with Clementine. I went out about 4:30 and played with Clementine for about an hour. And at 5:30 we said, well, it's time to go. And we looked at Clementine and said, well, goodbye. And she broke into tears. She just started sobbing. And the one she really looked at was me. She hated it that I was leaving. She had this sense of loss that Grandpa was leaving. And I think that's why we're weeping. We have this sense of loss. We've lost someone. We've lost something. And when we lose a person, when we lose a job, when we lose our cell phone, when we lose our calendar, not only do we have a sense of loss, but we feel lost. It's like the anchor has disappeared in our life. There's nothing to ground us. It's like we've lost our meaning. That's why we're weeping. And we sometimes wonder, why continue? How do I continue? When we talk about loss, it is often around the death of someone. And we talk about then the steps of grieving. The shock, the denial, the anger, the bargaining. It was a real revelation to me as I went through my first experience of grief. It wasn't around somebody's death. It was around the breakup with my first true love. And I didn't identify it as grief. And I think it's important that we realize when we're weeping and we're having a loss, that we experience loss other than death. That really does affect us. And we need to treat other losses, I think, often as seriously as we treat death. Because there are other losses where we are lost. The question, why are you weeping, leads to the next question, for whom are you looking? Now normally, why are we weeping does have to do with a person that we've lost. For whom are you looking? It's not for what are you looking, but for whom are you looking? There's a difference between who and what. What can be replaced often, but who has to do with a relationship. And it's very hard, to replace a person we've lost. To lose a who rather than a what usually puts us in much more of a vulnerable position, and much more of a position where we start to examine our lives about who am I and why am I? And we look up at the mirror to explore ourselves and the meaning of our lives when we've lost that relationship. Got to thinking about, for whom am I looking? It's a good question. For whom am I looking? Some days are such that I'm happy to just go to Kroger and swipe my Kroger card and hear them say, "Welcome, valued customer." Some days that's all I'm looking for is just somebody to say, welcome, valued customer. I had a day a couple weeks ago where, none of the phone calls went through. They all went to voicemail. Had a series of people call me Bud or Mac or Pal or my favorite, Dude. And I thought, what I'm looking for is somebody who will call me John. And somebody who will know me. And somebody who will understand me and not run away laughing. I'm looking for somebody that will call me John, because that will make me feel like I matter. And Mary's at the grave, and Jesus says to her, Mary. Up to this point, she's been called woman. But here she's called Mary. And the Bible says she turned and said, Rabbi, or Rabboni, which is affectionate. She turned. Her life changed. I think the questions that Jesus asked kind of plowed the ground, kind of softened the surface. And in those questions, they shared a vulnerability where those questions kind of probed at her life. And those questions then planted seeds and get under the skin. And in a sense, Jesus got planted in her heart. I think why Jesus says, don't hold me, is because she's not going to experience him externally anymore. She's going to experience him in her heart. And I think that's what good questions do as they get more and more personal. They get under our skin and become part of us. And I think that's what happened with Jesus and Mary. They got under each other's skins and got close to each other. One point in my ministry, I visited a woman in the hospital, and she had cancer, and I went to see her, and she said, I'm going to hospice tomorrow. They've determined that I should be admitted to hospice. And I said to her, well, the elephant is in the room when somebody makes a statement like that. What is my next statement? Often the temptation is to divert and distract the conversation and say something like, how about those Buckeyes? Did you eat well today? But I'm going to hospice tomorrow. What do you say? The elephant's out there. I said to her, what does going to hospice mean to you? It took, I feel, some courage on my part to ask that question. You don't know what you're going to get. And I think it took some courage on her part to answer the question, because she didn't know what I was going to say back. And she said, I'm really looking forward to seeing Jesus face to face. And she said, "This is a good thing for me." And we must have talked for 45 minutes to an hour, sharing ideas and vulnerabilities and hopes and dreams. And we got under each other's skin in a good way and entered each other's hearts in a very good way. And I think when we're that vulnerable in our questions, I think we're so vulnerable that Jesus and God get involved and enter our hearts also. She has died. I feel she's still with me in my heart. This story opens with angels. Angels in white. Now, all angel means is messenger. It's all it means is messenger. It says there were two angels, one sitting where Jesus' feet were, and the other was where Jesus' head would have been. It interests me that these angel messengers don't announce anything. I always thought those angels said, "Oh, he's not here. He's risen." The angels in John don't say that. All the angels in John do is ask a question. "Woman, why are you weeping?" That's all the angels say. Now, at the end of the story, Jesus says to Mary, "Go and tell my brothers and sisters that I've risen. And I'm going to my God and your God, my Father and your Father. Go and tell them that God is for them also. And God is drawing the circle wide to include them in this good news of new life and in this good news of unexpected new life." He actually is asking Mary to be an angel. "Mary, will you be an angel now and go to them and tell them the unexpected good news of resurrection that you weren't thinking was going to happen? Will you be an angel and tell people about the hope that God has and the hope they should have that they are included in God's story?" Our job is to hear the questions and to be angels and talk to other people and ask them questions to plow the ground so that they are ready to receive the good news and the unexpected presence of Christ in their lives, to give hope to the lost, to give hope to those without anchors, to give hope to those who have lost their meaning. And I think we're also to ask ourselves questions, to be an angel to ourselves. So go back to Psalm 42, to ask ourselves the question, "Why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you disquieted within me?" Those are good questions to ask ourselves, because often we are cast down and often we are disquieted. And the psalmist says, "Hope in the Lord. Hope in the Lord, who will enter your heart and give you new life and new energy where you least and when you least expect it. May it be so. Amen.